Welcome to A Better HR Business, the podcast that looks at how HR consultants and HR tech firms grow their businesses and how they help their employers to get the best out of their people. Remember, for show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Okay, let's get started.
Hello, thanks very much for joining me again. Great to have you along. And I'm really looking forward to today's conversation with Thad Price. Thad is the CEO of Talroo, which is a very cool talent matching marketplace designed for sourcing frontline and essential workers that companies and organizations are missing out on. And its engine powers millions of job searches every day across the internet, and it uses signals from customers' ATS to optimize their cost per hire goal, which is such an important metric these days. So before we get into it, Thad, thank you very much for joining me.
Ben, great to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah. And you're calling in from Austin, Texas. Is that right? Yep.
That's right. I hail from Austin, Texas.
Uh-huh.
It is quite hot at this point.
Yeah, but Austin's such a hot tech scene as well, I believe.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. We moved the business here from the Bay Area about 10 years ago. So we were in the Bay Area incubated, and our founder celebrated Austin for three reasons: taxes, time zone, and talent. He calls it the three T's. So it was great to move here 10 years before the boom that was Austin. It's just been incredible to witness the growth here over the last 10 years.
Fantastic. Wow, that's great. For people who don't know Talroo, I gave a little description and how it's helping to find the right workers, particularly in the frontline and essential workers area. But what's the need, the business driver, and then how does Talroo help organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about attracting frontline workers and essential workers, our approach is more of a marketing approach, which you typically see in online advertising and marketing. And the way I like to think about it is, when you think of audiences and how marketers reach consumers online, it's usually about finding the right audience. An auto manufacturer says, hey, I want to reach people that are in market to buy a truck. And Ford says, I want to advertise my F-150 to folks that are in market to buy a truck. And there's a lot of data that companies can use to understand if you can find people that are looking to buy a truck. And that decouples this experience that is, I want to buy advertising on a website, right? I want to buy an advertising on a certain domain or a property. Instead, it's more of a data-driven approach around where the audiences are. And so it's not about buying an ad on Yahoo. Yahoo isn't as popular as it once was, but no marketer wakes up one morning and says, I need to buy an ad on Yahoo. But there's still a lot of people who use Yahoo, and there's still a lot of value. And so the idea is to use these audiences and data to help find audiences in the right place and at the right time and at the right price. And so that's how we think about that in terms of job advertising. So in job advertising, it's still a point and post experience where people say, I want to post my job ad on a website, Indeed or another. And so our thought process is can we use all this data to unearth audiences wherever they may be online and help connect our customers with those career-minded audiences? So that's a little different, and that's our platform. But the whole idea is to focus on the data and the audiences and not necessarily the domain or the destination.
So does that mean you sort of tap into not unused, but hidden inventory or real estate to find people?
Absolutely. So that's right. So think of it as, one good way to think about it is when you're investing and you're ready for retirement, right? You're diversifying across many different companies, right? Your financial advisor is diversifying your portfolio against different companies to make the bets that you need to get the right rate of return. So when you retire, you can live the life you want to live. And so the same is true with advertising in general. And so we're thinking about that, and we're helping companies diversify their recruitment advertising budget across different hidden pockets of talent and audiences that you could never, you don't necessarily have the time, energy, and effort to manage individually, but collectively you can gain a lot of scale. And this is what is referred to in online traditional marketing as programmatic online marketing, where you use a platform and you find the right audiences and you set your goals and you get the right return for your business. And so we're looking at that from a recruitment marketing lens to help companies attract a pipeline of candidates that they need in order to reach their hiring objectives.
So does that require a level of scale? Like it's not the 1 and 2 vacancy a month or a year. It's got to be a bigger company. Is that right?
Exactly. It's got to be a bigger company. So we launched a product recently, Ready Set Hire, which is our product for more small
Hmm.
businesses, companies that don't necessarily have an applicant tracking system. Talroo is built for companies at scale that have an applicant tracking system that are looking for high volume hiring. Ready Set Hire is built for companies that have 1 to 2 job openings. And we're enforcing and providing tools to create more of a recruiting process, which a lot of businesses need to be successful.
That's a great name, by the way. Ready, set, hire. I like that one.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, it's got a great ring to it. So with Ready Set Hire, we're leveraging our data and our talent pools, but with that, we're actually bringing light applicant tracking system functionality to small businesses to help ensure that they're, responsive. They need help writing job descriptions. All of these things are built into the Ready Set Hire platform for
Got it.
more of the smaller businesses that don't necessarily have the luxury of having a talent acquisition team
Yeah,
or an HR team.
yeah. Where were you when I was doing that job? Oh my gosh, I could have done with you. So for the larger platform then, or for the main Talroo platform, who's using it? So in terms of the actual roles or teams, or whatever, and then what do they see when they go into the platform itself?
Yeah, so the great point is it's usually talent acquisition teams or
Mhm.
recruitment marketing teams. And at the end of the day, we're orchestrating job advertising directly to the applicant tracking system. So one way to think about it is if you think of Google AdWords, jobs are synced to our platform, to the Talroo platform from the applicant tracking system. And companies can do this, or we can do this on their behalf. They will go into the platform, log into our platform, and set rules and goals on individual jobs based on a target cost per application goal based on the signal from the applicant tracking system. So when an applicant submits their application, we get a signal back from the applicant tracking system that says, success, an
More of
applicant,
that.
more of that. And so we then use that signal back into our machine learning to find the right pockets of candidates that are successful and that are productive for the employer. You can set campaigns based on job families, job locations, goals, budget. And the beauty of it is talent acquisition leaders aren't using another system. So if you think about the applicant tracking system, that's really the system of record for many companies, of course. So we wanted to create a middleware type product that was easy to use, that we could orchestrate behind the scenes, that talent pool so they can apply directly through the applicant tracking system that the employer is using.
Nice, nice. So let's say I'm Grumpy Ben. I'm in charge of a talent acquisition team, and I was like, "Well, it's all right. We don't need it. We're on LinkedIn and Indeed. Why would they need Talroo?"
Well, I think that the big key is diversifying your candidates in thinking of new locations to essentially recruit and find talent. I mean, when you think of the reach of Indeed or you think of the reach of LinkedIn, they are enormous and they're great places to advertise and to source great talent. However, there's a whole nother universe out there. Those
Mm.
businesses represent maybe 60% of the market. There's still 40% out there that a lot of high volume hiring businesses need to be successful, to be able to unlock that talent pool and essentially focus on the results and focus on the right talent for the right role.
So I don't know, it's probably your secret sauce, but what's an example of a site that you could source talent from that's outside of the big 800-pound gorillas of LinkedIn and Indeed?
The number one is actually a job property that we own and operate, and that's Jobs to Careers. When we started 10 years ago, our company was Jobs to Careers, and we were operating, and we still operate, one of the largest search engines for jobs in the US. So the plumbing that we use for Jobs to Careers, other job sites leverage. And that plumbing is what makes, a lot of the Talroo ecosystem tick and to be successful. But Jobs to Careers is one great example of it.
So why frontline and essential workers? Why not the whole internet?
Well, today it's frontline essential workers. Tomorrow it may be a little different. We just basically had a new product release that we're really excited about over the
Ah,
last month, and that's called Smart Screen. And with that product, what we're actually doing is we are using AI to understand and to extract credentials from a job posting. And when we extract credentials from a job posting, we will then surface those credentials in a chatbot. And so when people start looking to apply for the job, we will try to qualify them using the
Mm.
chatbot for the job that they're interested in before we redirect them to the apply process. If you think about the journey of our business, we've had a lot of success over the years helping many Fortune 500 companies be successful at finding new candidates and unlocking new sources of talent. However, it's been mostly high volume hiring. It's been mostly front worker and essential workers. What we see in the industry now, especially as budgets have been tightening over the last, let's call it, 2 years, we've been seeing more of a focus on credentialed workers and skilled licensed professionals. And there's a big need in the industry right now. So, as we think about our next step and we think about where there's a lot more opportunity in the future, we see this as an amazing growth vector for us to provide value, more quality candidates, less quantity of candidates, but higher quality candidates.
Yeah, the new product sounds very cool. I keep thinking back when someone mentions AI, for some reason, that Amazon horror story pops into my brain where I think it was that Amazon had an algorithm to screen CVs and then it rejected a couple of candidates. But it turns out like they were graduates from a women's only college. And so therefore it taught itself, okay, we're going to reject all women candidates. So I'm just curious because I'm not involved in the development of AI. How do you ensure that it's equitable and doesn't cut out certain candidates?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the big thing to think about is we have to ensure as an industry that it's about equitable algorithms. And we have to ensure that we're making decisions to remove unconscious bias in any type of process. From our perspective, when we look at our thesis around AI and how we leverage it in our system is we should use it to help be a purveyor of efficiency. And what I mean by that is not from the perspective of screening and not from the perspective of this very binary approach where it's like you either get the job or you don't get the job,
Mm.
right? It's more about how we can use AI to be a helper to job seekers and to be an efficiency tool for
Mm.
employers. And through that lens, AI can be very successful at the process of hiring and recruiting. Pardon the cliche, but we can't take the human out of human resources, right? We still need to be involved in the hiring process and we still need to be involved in making those decisions and ensuring that we are equitable in those decisions for all job seekers. Think about it from the lens of where can we gain efficiency? Where can we reduce and eliminate redundant tasks that aren't connected with the quality angle of the job seeker? I think we can be a lot more successful as an industry and provide a lot more value across the board.
So if I sort of change directions, look at the business growth and then getting the word out about Talroo, I want to ask in a moment about what sort of the main marketing business growth methods that you guys are using. But to start with, you've got a very interesting Frontline Worker Index, which is a classic example of thought leadership and positioning the business. So can you tell us about that? And then more broadly, what are you doing to get the word out, market, and grow the business?
Yeah, so when you think of the Frontline Worker Index, it was the genesis of we have this great data asset, millions of people that are searching for jobs every day. How do we surface that and create value that again can, as you mentioned, allow us to be a thought leader in the frontline space, frontline industry? And through that, we're excited about the Frontline Worker Index. We think that people no longer want to be sold to, right? We think it's an education process and how you're providing leadership and thought leadership in a certain sector and vertical becomes very important. So we're excited about the Frontline Worker Index and we think
Mm.
it can provide a lot of value to folks as they think about their strategy for frontline hiring and how they're planning frontline work hiring. When we think about marketing from a hiring perspective, one of the important strategies that we implemented here that was pretty game changing for us as far as recruiting is getting involved in the local market areas and the surveys around best places to work and ensuring that our brand was known in our local market for hiring. So it's one of the, let's call it low cost, high reward ways to think about how you can get involved within your local market to be successful for hiring and recruiting. For growing our business, a lot of our success has been focused on channel sales, over the last few years through recruitment advertising agencies that we're working on. But, I like to rally more recently as we reflected, at our business over the last few years. We had an incredible few years post COVID, and the recruitment budgets have tightened a bit over the last year and a half. And so I'll leave your audience with a statement that, I've been rallying our team around, because I think it's easier to understand where we need to focus in our business. And the statement is simply that revenue is a trailing indicator of product, process, and value creation. And I think as leaders, if we focus around those three areas, product, process, and value creation for the customer, we can be more successful. And so I think too many times leaders are in this area where it's like, why is revenue shrinking? Why is revenue down? How are we thinking about this? And really the reason why that happened is because these three things didn't happen 6 months ago or 8 months ago. And so that's where we can do a better job as a business to be more successful going forward.
It's great advice. A really clever manager I worked with once, and it was the first business turnaround project I got involved with. And he pointed out that if we just stopped the sales process and didn't let any more customers in and just fixed the product, fixed the service, the process, and the way it was managed, it would be such a much more profitable business. They'd be making a lot more money, but instead they just keep letting in more business, treating it badly. So yeah, I agree that having the right product and then the process matters so much, and that makes the marketing much easier, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Any final words of advice to people in terms of marketing or growing an HR related business?
Well, I think the big thing to think about is recruiting is sales. Any way you think about it, whether you're recruiting and you're trying to ensure that you are closing the right candidate. And there's so much about recruiting that is also marketing, and how we think about attracting talent, how we think about being successful, at that process. So I can't tell you how many companies we chat with that don't really think about the recruiting process as like a sales process and a marketing art form and science. I think that's really eye-opening when you really dig into that, and you can be changing, can really be transformational as it relates to your business if you reflect on your recruiting and HR processes differently.
Absolutely. It's all promotional. If people want to learn more about Talroo, and you did mention, for example, channel partners, so perhaps there are people listening thinking, oh, I wonder if we would be partners or opportunity for doing something together. What should people do next?
Hey, you can absolutely reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can connect with talroo.com. Happy to connect and find ways that we could potentially work together.
Excellent. If you're listening to this on the go, we'll have the links in the show notes, but also do check out Talroo and learn more about the business. We've got a wide range of resources and ebooks and webinars, and they're on demand. So recordings available and stuff. Also that Frontline Worker Index, which is very interesting, but it sounds like the scope is broadening in the future. So you might find other sectors getting involved, and also the new products. So I've learned a lot. Thank you very much, Thad. I really appreciate you sharing your insights and time today.
Thanks, Ben. Take care.
Thanks for joining us today on A Better HR Business, the podcast that explores the world of HR consulting and HR tech businesses. For show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Remember to subscribe and share the show with any friends who are busy growing a HR business. Thanks, and see you next time.